We are so glad that you joined us today amidst a busy holiday week, and we're going to get started shortly. So for now, please locate the chat box and toggle the to icon to everyone to ensure that we can get your questions and comments as we move through today's program. And let us know where you're logging in from and what kind of work that you're seeking if you are a job seeker. Today's agenda will include success stories. Our main speaker and presentation, we're going to be sharing active job leads. We'll have partner updates. And of course, we will reveal what's going to take place next time at Job Club. The mission. Job Club's mission is to provide a positive environment for job seekers to network and learn best practices for the job search. We meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, and you can find the schedule of topics at www.ukalumni.net/jobclub. Of course, I want you to meet the team. It takes a village for Job Club, and we are appreciative of everybody's contribution. I am Diana Doggett. I'm the Extension Specialist with Cooperative Extension at UK. Caroline Francis is the Director of Alumni Career Services at the University of Kentucky Alumni Association. Amanda Schagane is the Associate Director of Alumni Career Services. Nicole Waite is our employment specialist at UK STEPS Temporary Employment. And of course, we want to shout out to Suzanne Smith and Sunny Saylor here at the Fayette County office, where we are now in person. And in addition, we have Queen Sullivan, Christy Kaufman, and Lindsay Cogdill. They are with the UK Alumni Association and are just a tremendous support. And as I mentioned, we are in person in Fayette County. So if you're in the vicinity of Central Kentucky, we always welcome you to come and join us. The hybrid model does include in person as well as our Zoom webinar. And with that, we have a chat moderator available. We also are on Facebook Live. That is view only, no chat moderator or job lead newsletter. We want to remind you that you can access recordings of Job Club sessions here, and that's at our website again at www.ukalumni.net/jobclub. We want to encourage you to join the Central Kentucky Job Lead Sharing Community on LinkedIn, and that is a site that we will be posting news articles throughout the 2-week interim. We'll put job leads that we suddenly are aware of and perhaps weren't able to post at our past presentations. So it's worth your while to connect with us on LinkedIn. We want you to take time as well to review our free Job Club resource packet. And again, that's on our website, and it is so informational. We have interview tips, we have the Kentucky area and even statewide state staffing agencies, job leads, we have articles of interest, and we also have a lot of resources that will help you in the job search, such as a checklist of resume review. We'll have a verb list. So there's just a vast array of information, and we want you to have access to it. So be sure and do that. We always welcome employers and recruiters, and we hope that that if you have a job lead and you would love to share that at the end of our presentation, we'll give you a 1-minute spotlight to share an active lead. And so look for that. Just raise your hand in the chat box, and we will hand that over to you. Watch your email later on today for job leads that have been sent to us ahead of time, and you will have access to that later on this afternoon when you get that that newsletter. Some attendees are conducting a confidential job search. So let's please be respectful of privacy of the job search of others. Check out the job search related articles included in our Job Club reminder newsletters. And one of the most frequent questions we receive is, do you have access to past recordings? And yes, we do. Our PowerPoint slides, our recordings are also available at that website, which is www.ukalumni.net/job club. So if you have a subject, you have a particular topic you think that you would need immediately, go ahead and check that out. I think you're going to find a lot of assistance. Well, let's welcome our first timers. That's always a really great aspect of Job Club. We like to get that up front. And so if you are a first timer and you are joining us online, let us know that in the chat box. And we'd love to welcome you. And this feedback, if you take just participation with our survey, you see that on the screen, you will, that contact information will allow us to notify you of upcoming presentations, of any information about future programming. So be sure and complete that now. We would hope that you will do that with the QR code, or you can visit the online address. Success stories. I guess when it's all said and done, that's the reason we exist. We thrive, we celebrate, we rejoice with your successes. And so we're anxious to hear what you've been doing the last 2 weeks. So if you have a success story, definition, it could be almost anything that you are currently doing in your job search. If you are increasing your network, maybe you've got an interview, had one, have an upcoming one. Have you updated your resume? Have you had a job offer? So let's take a minute and go to this chat box. Let us know. I don't think we have any success story in person. We most sometimes do, but it looks like that we're receiving some good feedback in our chat box. And again, that's what encourages us to keep on working with and presenting Job Club. We want you to have that big win, and sometimes it's the smaller successes that's going to, it's always the smaller successes that's going to lead to that big win. So do we have anyone online that would like to share? All right, I think we do.
We have June, who had a job offer yesterday. So big congrats to June.
Yes. Oh. Well, that's the big one. Well, we are certainly happy for June, and we hope to hear a little bit more detail. We always love when you actually do get employment. We really hope you'll share with us details, what has been meaningful in your search that maybe you've gained through Job Club. It's really helpful to others, and it's very motivational. So just want to remind you of that we want you to share with us when you actually get that employment. Well, great. Okay, let's get to our presentation. And I don't know about you, but in sharing this with a lot of listservs and our typical marketing, this is one that has resonated a lot of curiosity and interest, and frankly, very, very excited about having some assistance with negotiating salaries. So none other than Amanda Schagane is going to share this with us, and we're excited about that. Amanda, we all know Amanda, but if you're new to Job Club, I just want to fill in a little bit about her background. She, again, is the Associate Director of the Alumni UK Services with UK Alumni Association. She brings over 11 years of experience in career counseling services and an adjunct faculty roles at UK. She holds many of the highest credentials offered to career counselors, including, there are such a long list here. She is a certified career counselor, clinical supervisor. She's a certified strengths coach, transition coach. I mean, the list goes on and on. Amanda is what should we say, maybe overqualified? I don't know, but she's certainly someone that we value her expertise in Job Club. In December of 2020, Amanda published with the National Career Development Association and has served as a past president of the Kentucky chapter of this organization. She served as a regular contributing columnist to the Lexington Herald Leader, sharing expertise on job-related topics for working professionals from 2015 through 18. Amanda earned a certificate in business administration, master's degree in counseling, psychology, and a BA in psychology from UK, and is a proud life member of the UK Alumni Association. Amanda, it is with my privilege, and I'm excited to hear this presentation. So we're going to turn it over to you, and thanks in advance for sharing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Diana. I'm watching for y'all to pass over the virtual so I can move the slide, and we'll go ahead and get started. Uh-oh, it looks like the screen share dropped, Diana. Sorry.
Well, I did that. I see you on there. They don't.
That's okay. While Diana's working on that, we can kind of do our first activity in the chat. Excited to talk about salary today. I know it's often something that clients have a little bit of nerves about, maybe even more so than the interview process. So I'm curious, while we're working on the slides here at Extension, in the chat box, let us know, if you were to receive an offer today, how confident would you be in the negotiation process? What are some thoughts, feelings that come to mind? Would that make you nervous, excited? Would you be hesitant? Oh, and I'll watch for some of those to come through in the chat box while we're working on the screen share up here.
Crazy.
While we're watching for those to come through, looks like Christy put my LinkedIn in the chat. You all are most welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat and talk about the process always. If y'all are okay, is it okay if I do the screen share from here? Would you all mind if I troubleshoot on my end? I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we can always swap back later. All right. Is my screen share coming through okay, Diana? Can you give me a thumbs up, or even in the chat box? Okay, thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate that very much. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So I see someone in the chat box here says, oh, I'm about 50% confident in the negotiation process. I think 50% is pretty good. Most of the clients who, and even recently, because the market's so good for candidates, who get an offer, they're excited, but maybe a little hesitant to move forward with what next steps are. Some folks don't even know where to start, and that's okay too. We're going to go with today that we're kind of all in this like, I wonder what's next part of the process. But before we really dive into strategy, I'd love to share a little bit more about what the data says on salary negotiations, so you know what the trends are right now. Keep in mind, this changes. So this is just the current state for right now. So let's see here. Well, Christy, can you put the link to the article in the chat box for me there? In case y'all want to read a little bit more on this, I'm going to share just a few highlights. There's no end in sight for the Great Resignation, and we've all heard about the Great Resignation. 3 out of 4 full-time employees are planning to quit their job in the next 12 months. So we know that there's a lot of transition happening out in the market. Pay is a major reason why. 79% of employed job seekers believe they can make more money by switching jobs. And so candidates and employees are perceiving that their loyalty is not paying off. Another trend, pay increases are common, but they're being outpaced by inflation. I don't know about y'all, but my grocery bill has significantly increased over the last couple of years, even more so even in the last couple of months. Over half of employed workers, 53%, received a pay raise in 2020. However, 58% of those who received a raise reported that their raise was 5% or less, failing to keep the pace with the 6.8% inflation reported as of November 2021. So curious to see that 2022 data. Other trends, this is no surprise. Remote work remains extremely popular. 61% of all job seekers are interested in remote work opportunities for 2022. I've seen that with my clients for sure. And of workers currently working remotely at least part of the time, 45% say that they would quit if their employer required them to come back in person in 2022. And last theme on this one, employers need to reevaluate workplace benefits post-pandemic. Lots of articles on this one. 80% of job seekers believe that employers need to reevaluate their benefits that they offer after the pandemic. 67% of job seekers say that benefits are more important to them now than ever before the pandemic. And 54% would even take a lower paying job with a better benefits package. So curious in the chat box what y'all think about this. Would you take a lower paying job with a better benefits package? And we'll do a little informal poll in there, just a yes or no. Here's another one, and we'll put the link into the chat if you want to see this one. The Job Seeker Nation report. It's pretty good. Here's some highlights from that one. 45% of surveyed workers are actively looking for a job in the next year. 54% have not looked internally within their own company. Salary negotiation is at an all-time high. Candidates are feeling confident about it, at least starting the process. 71% of workers are comfortable negotiating salaries in the current market, up 19 percentage points since 2018. So definitely a different job market and economy that we're looking at now. Salary transparency. Lots of interesting legislation happening on salary transparency, as a few states have started requiring companies to post their salary information. 82% of workers wish that more employers would disclose wage and benefit information on the job posting. That's a pain point for job seekers, is we apply for jobs online, but we don't always know what the salary range is. And if the salary range is shared, it's pretty wide. It's not always very transparent. And then two more on this one, asking for a raise. 63% of workers said that they were comfortable asking for a raise. Of those that asked, 72% were given a raise. We'll talk more about that. And then 21% of workers report that they or someone in their immediate family have gone without food for 24 hours due to a lack of food or money. Okay, so a lot of folks who inflation has hit really hard. It's more common than you think. That's more than 1 in 5 folks. And so when we're talking about the salary, this isn't just for positions that are on the higher tier of the tax bracket. This is for everyone. This information is for everyone. And then this one showing that the trend, 40% of job seekers would be willing to accept a lower salary for the flexibility of working remotely, even if for a couple of days a week. And this is a trend that's not likely to go away. Looking in the chat, it does look like some folks might consider lower pay for better benefits package. It really is about that work-life management and what's most important to you. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to jump into salary negotiation and job offer evaluation next. And we'll start with the salary negotiation process. So, ideal progression for candidates. This is, as a job seeker, in the most ideal way. This is not always how it goes. We know this, but the candidate applies for the job and the salary range is included in the job posting. The candidate is invited to interviews, completes the interview stage. There might be 1, 2, 3 rounds, although trending now it's fewer because there's less candidates in any pool. Next, the employer notifies the candidate that they're the preferred candidate and that they're working on an offer. They're doing this to secure our talent, to let us know, hey, I'm working on the offer. This rarely happens, but it's nice when it does. And then the employer notifies the candidate of a written offer, including the financial information and the benefits package in a written form. So we can really comb through that as a candidate. Next, employer gives candidate time to consider the offer. I mean, it'd be really nice if we had 2 days, 48 hours, 36 hours to consider an offer. Sometimes this happens, sometimes it doesn't. But the more time we have in there, it can really help a candidate have time to process, to think about their budget, and to feel really confident in accepting or declining an offer. Next, the candidate offers a counter offer out along with any outstanding questions. If you have questions about the retirement contribution, matching, or insurance, that's your opportunity to ask. And then the employer responds with the final offer. And then the candidate accepts offer. We're talking about the ideal progression here. And then the candidate and the employer discuss an employment start date. And then the candidate notifies their current employer of their resignation in a written professional form. We'll talk more about this. I've got a sample. At least 2 weeks notice, and maybe even 1 month, depending on if it's a salary role. So this is the ideal progression for candidates. How do you think that it's going to be different for employers? It's different. So the ideal progression on the employer side is that the salary range may or may not be included in the posting. That during the interview process, we figure out from the employer perspective, they figure out how much does this talent cost and can I afford this candidate's talent? It's their responsibility as the recruiter, HR, the hiring manager to secure talent at the most budget-friendly, fiscally responsible way, right? And so they may not be able to give notice to the candidate that they're the preferred candidate. They want to make an offer as quickly as possible. Sometimes it takes longer than expected. It depends on how much red tape there is in the organization. The employer notifies the candidate of written offer. And from the employer's perspective, they want to meet the desired salary of the candidate because they don't want a lot of back and forth. They want the candidate to just accept straight. And so there's no negotiation process. 6, 7, and 8 are scratched and the candidate accepts the offer. So in an ideal world, the employer is meeting the candidate where their talent costs. Okay, everything from there is the same. And so what we're going to address today are some of these pain points between the candidate and the employer and strategy language that we might use as we're progressing through the process. Okay, so pain point number 1, can the employer meet the desired candidate's salary? I.e., can they afford your talent as a job seeker? And so this may be asked during the interview stage or even in the application. We see that pretty common now. Anyone seen this in an application recently? You don't put the company necessarily, but they may ask desired salary : and if you try to put the words negotiable, which is ideal, into it, sometimes it'll require you to input a figure. Sometimes it requires that numerical entry. But here's a couple of strategies for that. Let's say we're fielding a salary question within an interview setting on these. So 2 strategies. First one, redirect. I'd like to know more about the responsibilities of the job before discussing salary, or my salary requirements are open, negotiable, based on what I learned about the position and the overall compensation package. I really like that second one because it tells the employer that there are other things that are not necessarily more important, but just as important as the salary. So knowing about the retirement, knowing about the insurance, all that very valuable. Another strategy you might consider is the question with a question strategy. I have had clients be really successful with this one. Salary, certainly negotiable. I'm really more interested in the overall compensation package than the salary figure alone. Can you share more about your budget for the role and the benefits package? Especially if the job posting doesn't include a really tight band for the salary. If you're really not sure where it's going to land, ask them to share more about their budget. They'll either share or they won't, similar to what we are in fielding the salary question. But the ideal strategy for fielding the salary is to avoid sharing the figure if you can. Some of the research says the first person to share the figure really anchors the negotiation, and we want to anchor it high. So, all right, next pain point. Next pain point is, how do I know as a job seeker, as a candidate, what my talent is actually worth? And how much should I counter at? How do I know if it's appropriate? How do I collect that information? And so I don't know about y'all, but I think that my talent's worth a whole lot of money, maybe more than my employer. I don't know. But most folks who make up a figure, not necessarily based on resources that we'll talk about, shoot too high. Shoot too high for what their talent is actually worth. There's a lot of factors in this. Of course, your past salary levels, especially if you're moving within the same organization, those are going to anchor the negotiation. Your years of experience, any value added like certifications that you've had, Industry norms, geographic location is huge, especially if you're looking to move for a new job. And your personal budget. Of course, that bottom line budget is critically important. A few resources you might jot down for this one to help figure out your range. Bureau of Labor Statistics is always a good one. Payscale.com, the cost of living calculator on their website is really good too, and salary.com. And these data points come from different places. Payscale, in order to view the data, you have to submit a data point from a previous role. So the data sets are people submitting previous salary information for their titles and roles in a specific geographic target. So a little bit of dated information, but it's true salary data from that company for that title. So definitely check that out. Salary.com is an aggregate of all the job postings that are out. So you'll yield a wider range there. The goal here is to use more than one source for how you got to the number. It's what you think you're worth, but also backed by some data, right? Backed by some data. Okay, here's another pain point that we're going to talk about. How to make the counter in a professional way that doesn't offend the employer. I'm curious in the chat box what y'all think. Is there a certain percentage that you think would offend the employer? If I were to counter an employer at 20% or 50% more or 80% more, at some point, there's a boundary of offending the employer. So an ideal range to counter, an aggressive range to counter, but then also a range that's kind of out of bounds. Like we know we can't ask the employer to double down. We can't ask for 100%. We know that's out of bounds, but curious what y'all think in the chat. What percent do you think is aggressive / I might offend the employer? I probably should not go here. I'll watch for those to come in as we're talking about strategy here. So in this part of the process, we're thinking back to the ideal progression for the candidate. We have received a written offer from the employer, okay? And now we have a day or two to think about it, hopefully at least a day. And we want to communicate our interest, our gratitude. Gratitude's really important. You have to start and end with gratitude always. Every stage of the process, interviewing, everything. Cite any research or rationale, reference an ideal range, and aim just a little bit higher than your target. Okay, so here's a couple of example quotes that you might be able to practice and make your own. I truly appreciate the offer, and I'm so excited for the potential to join the team. I'm very interested in the role, and I think I could make an immediate contribution. I was hopeful the salary would be between blank and blank based on my experience level and the research I've done. Is there room to negotiate at this stage? Okay. Here's another one. After reviewing the offer you emailed, I do have a few follow-up questions. I'm very grateful for the offer and excited for next steps. I wanted to ask about the retirement contribution matching. Can you share more? And then, ask a few other questions in there. Also, I wanted to ask if the salary is at all negotiable. Based on my research and experience, I was hoping to be at this figure. So you can counter at a specific number or even a range. You could share a range, so lots of strategy here, but ideally a specific number. And they're going to say yes, no, or maybe. Okay. I'd say in my experience, most common is maybe, because usually the person who's making the offer, the hiring manager, usually has to go back and ask permission to give to increase the budget for that role. So most common, I think, is maybe. Very few instances I can think of where the hiring manager who's making the offer had the authority to make an offer within a range. So they had the flexibility to go ahead and move up and down. So your call may end with maybe, and that's not bad. None of these are bad. Either way, you should ask. But they may have to go back to HR, to the budget books to see if they can come up and meet or come somewhere in that range. Every once in a while, it's a yes. Yes, we can certainly do that. We're excited for you to go ahead and start. Could you start next week? It's like, no, I have to give a 2-week notice. So you have to navigate that process, and it can be uncomfortable. And then many times, especially I know there are some folks on the call at UK, it doesn't always feel as negotiable in organizations where you're transferring between departments. So sometimes we'll hear no. And the candidate doesn't have to feel ashamed or embarrassed for asking if you get a no. There's no shame in that at all. in which case the candidate can decide, do you want to move forward or not? And we'll talk more about accepting and declining offers too. But yes, no, maybe, either way, you need to ask. Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about evaluating a job offer and the pain points associated with that. And I'll say the most common pain point that I've seen in candidates is that time pressure right after you receive an offer. Think about it from the employer's perspective. They may have interviewed 5 people for the first round for Zoom interviews or phone interviews. Zoom's more common right now. And then for a second round, they may have brought in 3 candidates. And so you're the preferred candidate, you're number 1, but they're not going to go to candidate number 2 and 3 and say, hey, just so you know, you're like candidate number B for this, like you're the second choice. And just in case this other person doesn't accept, we'd like for you to hang out. They're not going to do that. That's not to their advantage. And so from the employer perspective, they want to secure your talent at a reasonable rate as soon as they can, so that they have the viability of the rest of the pool if something were to not work out. And so from the candidate perspective, the candidate is looking for time to consider, time to chat with a significant other, to think about their family budget, to consider a move if necessary, to think, all these things, to look at the insurance, to make sure they can keep the same primary care doctor. All of these things come into play, and oftentimes within 24 hours. It can be a stressful 24 hours, also exciting during that time. But as a candidate, no, it's okay to ask for that time, and it's expected. Most employers would be delighted for their candidate to accept on the spot, but it's pretty common for a candidate to ask for 24, 48 hours to think about it. And when an offer happens like on a Friday afternoon, it's easy to ask for Monday. That's ideal, but it doesn't always work like that. But that pain point between the employer and the candidate sometimes can feel uncomfortable because they're trying to rush because they want to have a viable pool. If you say no, they want to be able to go to that other candidate in the pool and that person not know or not perceive that they were the second pick. Right? Okay. In the chat box, we're going to talk about job offer checklists now. What are some of the most important things to you as you're considering a job offer? Okay. Share some of the things that are really important components of that overall compensation package, not the figure. We know that the figure is really important, but what are some other things that you'd be looking for in an offer? What's interesting is there are employers that offer really unique benefits. There are some employers who are getting really creative with their benefits package to, depending on who they're targeting. They're targeting the younger generations, Gen Z. I've seen employers that are offering DoorDash like subscriptions as a benefit. Thinking of other unique benefit offerings. Timber Sealy in town, headquartered here in Lexington, offers a free mattress to their employees every so many years and a great discount program. But they're really unique benefit offerings available. Really depends on the employer. Thinking of UK as an example, the employee education program where you can take classes for free, or a family member may be able to take classes at a reduced rate are huge. But one in the chat here, assistance with relocating. Absolutely, yes. Yes, that's really helpful, especially the longer the move, the more pricey sometimes if we're going to a bigger city too. And sometimes that'll happen with a signing bonus or moving expenses. Those are one-time payments that are offered to a candidate that are not included in the annual salary. They are often included in the first year's tax bracket. So keep that in mind, that you're likely to be taxed on that information or on that money. But yeah, assistance with relocating, so helpful. Very good. All right, we'll watch for more to come in the chat. Okay, here's one in the chat. Retiring with the Army soon, benefits are less important than the position, location, and pay. Yep, very good. And some people would even call that, James, like the trifecta, position, location, and pay, in how it relates to real estate too, right? What's the figure, the location of the house, and the quality of the house? Yeah, very similar. So the job offer checklist, it's truly unique to each candidate. And it's much more than just the compensation. That's the main point here. Okay, leveraging offers. A few very specific scenarios, they always come up. Is the grass greener? Could I get a better offer with another group? Be wary of these. You could win really big, you could lose really big, but clients always ask me about these unique scenarios. So I'm going to cover 3 strategies for leveraging an offer. Okay. You're wondering, like, what do you mean leverage an offer? I mean, these specific scenarios. We'll do the top one. The situation, I have an offer from company A, but I prefer company B. I'm in process with both of them. I've interviewed with both of them. Sometimes the stars and the timing align with this, and sometimes they don't. The goal here would be to use the offer from company A to speed up the process with company B. Okay, so here's the strategy. Share a status update with company B and ask for an update on the status and the candidate pool and the timeline. Give them a call. This is a call, not an email. And you say, oh, company B, I am really grateful for you interviewing me last week for this position. I want to be transparent about where I'm at in the process and give an update and have a couple of questions. I received an offer for another organization, and while I'm incredibly grateful for that offer, it's not where I want to be. After reflecting, I really want to be with your organization, with company B. Is there any update that you can give me at this time on my candidacy for this position and what your timeline is, what next steps might be? Now, regardless of what we hear next, it's going to be helpful. It may not be what we want to hear, but it's going to be helpful in making the decision. Because sometimes employers will say, oh, we were getting ready to call you. We were going to call and invite you for another round of interviews, or we're preparing an offer for you. Hang out. On the flip side, they may say, we've actually moved forward in the process. Okay, we've actually moved forward in the process, which means you're not moving forward to the next round. And that's stinging, but that's information that we needed to know to feel more confident in the decision if we're going to go with company A or not. Okay. In this, we're going to try to delay company A if possible. So thank you so much. Is it okay if I take 48 hours to consider? Ask about the timeline and ask for time. Now, when I say honesty on there, I'm not going to say, hey, I'm going to go contact company B and ask them to match your offer. We're not doing that. We're just saying, whenever I make this decision, it's a big decision for the family and for my budget. I want to be really confident. Is it okay if I take 48 hours to work on my question list and to really comb through the budget to see if I can make this work? Okay, so very authentic approach. Okay, scenario number 2. I have an offer from company A that is higher than preferred company B offer. Okay, this is more rare to have 2 offers at the exact same time. A is probably more common. But the goal would be to drive up company B offer as leverage from company A. Remember, you can win big or you can lose big on these. These are aggressive, right? Not everyone will feel comfortable with this, and that's okay. That's why career counselors like me and Caroline are here to support you through the process. We can't make the call, but we'll walk you through the conversation. Okay, so strategy. Share status update with company B and ask them if they could match company A offer. Okay, so we call company B and we say, look, company B, I want to be transparent about where I'm at. I have an offer with another organization that's higher, but I really want to be at company B. And so I'd like to ask a question about retirement. I have a couple of questions about the offer. And is there any way that you could come up closer to this or match the offer from company A? And it's just like the strategy before, the yes, no, or maybe, and we'll see where we get, right? Same strategy for company A there, asking time so that you feel confident in moving forward. Last one on leveraging offers. You have an offer from company A, but prefer my current company to counter and keep me. Ooh, so many of my clients hope and wish that their current company will see value in them enough to raise their salary and keep them. So big risk of these. I think this is the most risky. So here's total transparency on this. Your current company is going to know that you've been job searching. And so they're going to know that you may have one foot out the door. You have to be prepared in this scenario to take the offer with company A. Okay. Similar strategy. You want to share a status update with your current company. And hopefully in this scenario, we have a good relationship with the supervisor where we can go to the supervisor and say, I I just want to be transparent about where I'm at. I do have an offer for an outside organization. And I've been testing the market to see, you know, if I'm being paid a competitive wage here at this organization. And while I'm excited about the offer, I'm less excited about the work than I would like to be to go. Do you know, or do you think if there's any room to negotiate my current salary at this time? And then same strategy, yes, no, or maybe. Okay. Not all companies can do this. It depends on how they're structured. And the idea or the goal there would be to delay company A if you can. Very similar to the strategies from before. So you're sharing a status update with your current company. If your current employer says, no, I can't raise your salary, you all but have to take the offer with company A. Because then your relationship with your current organization is very likely to suffer. A lot of research and articles on this that Caroline and I are always reading about tells us that once your employer knows you have one foot out the door, they never see you in the same light. And so you're less promotable, you're less likely to get that salary increase. At the same time, I've had clients be successful at this. I had one client be very successful in getting a higher title and a significant pay bump in this. Now they tried to do it several years later, a second time, and the employer said no. So this is a leverage that you could probably only use once. Only use once. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about accepting offers. Accepting, declining, and resigning. So accepting offers, this is an exciting part. We are done with the negotiation process. Employers happy, candidates happy. We get the offer in writing before accepting. We want to comb through everything, make sure it's what we verbally talked about on the phone. Your acceptance should be documented in written form, even if it's a reply to an email, happy to accept. Do not renege on your offer. So many times, and I think it happens in higher ed career services, often with students, that someone will resign even before their start date, or some articles even about like employers saying that a candidate doesn't show up to their first day because they accepted another offer and were too scared to call and tell them. If you accept, don't renege. Be a good person of your word and inform other employers that you're in process that you need to withdraw. So here's some example language you might use. I'm calling to emailing to update you on the status of my job search. I recently accepted a position and I need to withdraw from the job search process for position at company. Thank you for considering me as a candidate. Wish you and the team well. So that's whenever we're withdrawing from other that we may have interviewed with. Okay. Other applications that we have out, we no longer see them as viable. We're accepting this one offer. Okay, declining offers. We want to adhere to the timeline. If they give us 24 hours, 48 hours, we want to express gratitude for the offer. Gratitude is a consistent theme in the strategy. It's really important. And this is best over the phone with a follow-up letter or email, really. I'm following up regarding the position at blank. After careful consideration, I need to decline the offer. I'm very grateful for the time that the team spent with me during the interview process. And thank you for considering me as a candidate. I wish you and the team well. So lots of gratitude, short and sweet, for declining offers. And then lastly, for strategy is resigning with class. So many people miss this last because they're on to their next green pasture, but they forget that you're going to need references from your current employer in the future. Do not burn the bridge on your way out. You can resign with class. Okay. Resigning best in person with a follow-up letter or email so it's written for your record. Again, gratitude. Share your next steps if you want to. It's not required, but as appropriate. Commit to supporting a transition plan. Give at least 2 weeks notice. For some jobs, 4 weeks notice. Okay, so you might even double check your HR regulations to see what category you might fit in. If it's a salary job, you might be required to give 4 weeks notice and stay in good standing with your employer. And then continue to contribute during your resignation period. Just because you resign and you're out in 2 weeks doesn't mean like that you're just going to get to hang out. You still have to contribute. So here's some language that you might include. And this is again, in a formal email or a formal letter that you're printing for an in-person meeting. Please accept this letter as notice of my resignation from position blank at blank. My last day in the office will be this day. Committed to collaborating with you on a transition plan over the next few weeks. Wish you and the team much success. You can include where you're going, especially if it's a transfer to a different department, or if you're excited and feel comfortable sharing what your next steps are. They're likely to see it on LinkedIn anyways. But it really depends on the person in the organization. Every culture is a little bit different for this one. And so that ends the last part of the pain points for resigning the class. So now we're going to open it up to questions. Any specific questions on salary negotiation that I can help with? And I did see in the chat box there was someone who received an offer yesterday. So I'm rooting for you in the negotiation process. I'm watching for the chat box here. If there's any questions in person, y'all feel free to unmute over there too. Okay, I'm not seeing any in the question box now. I'm going to pass it back over to Caroline for the closer. If there are questions that come through in the meantime, I'm happy to chat on the chat box, or we can always book some time to talk later. Thank you all so much.
Amanda, thank you for all of your research on that fabulous presentation. Ideally, we're all going to be in situations where we could benefit from the information you shared today. So keep this presentation handy. Hopefully you took lots of good notes and that it will help you for the rest of your career anytime you've received a job offer. I know this is always uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the easier it'll become. And again, just think about it as a conversation. So thank you so much, Amanda. This is the time in our program where if we have any recruiters or employers that have joined us today and would like to have a brief spotlight to share an active job lead, please raise your hand and we will give you speaking abilities. Otherwise, they can email us job leads by noon today. Email would be jobclub@uky.edu, and we'll include those in our post-meeting job lead newsletter.
Caroline, we have Nicole wait on steps with Steps Online that wants to share an update.
Great. Thanks, Nicole.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Nicole, we can see you, but we can't hear you.
Can't hear me? I'm not sure. I'm unmuted. Not sure. Let's see here. Can you hear me? You still can't hear me? Oh, okay. So the attendees can hear me. Okay. Well, I'll move forward here. Alrighty. So once again, I am Nicole Wade. I'm with Steps Employment with the University of Kentucky. And if you do not know, Steps is a temporary we're not a temporary company. We are a part of the University of Kentucky. Many of people think that we are an like outside temporary company, but we're actually UK's internal temp employment office. And so Steps is a great way to get your foot in the door with the University of Kentucky. And I would like to point out that we do offer benefits for those who work in full-time positions. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. I don't have much today, but just a few job leads that we're going to share with you. Steps has a temporary outreach position that is open. We have a few administrative assistant positions that are open. Actually have an interesting temporary outreach assistant position that is open. And let's see here, we have actually a couple of Steps RN positions also. And so there are a few more. Those are just a few that I'm going to highlight for you. And I'll actually have those jobs, the links to those jobs available for you all today. It'll actually be shared and sent to you in the newsletter later today. And so thank you guys for attending today. today. It was a great presentation, Amanda, and I'll go ahead and hand it back over to Caroline. Thanks.
Thank you, Nicole. At this time, I would like to thank our extension partners, not only here in Fayette County, but across the state. All 120 counties have extension offices with incredible programming. So please check out the website of your local extension office and take advantage of their programming in so many different areas of life. We appreciate their partnership with Job Club. We want to remind everyone again that UK Steps is our partner as well as Extension, and you can go to their website for positions. Also, Alumni Career Services are available. Active and life members of the UK Alumni Association are eligible for 2 career counseling sessions. You do not have to have attended UK to be a member of the Alumni Association. It's just a benefit of membership. So if you need additional help with your job search, do consider joining to meet with one of our certified career counselors on our team. Next time, our topic is going to be choosing your professional references, and I will be your guest presenter. Often people don't put as much attention or strategy into how to choose their references, and every employer is going to ask you for references. So we'll go into depth next time on December the 13th on how to choose and prep your professional references. For those that are local, this is where we have our time to network and share job search information and encouragement. For those that are joining us today remotely, we thank you so much for joining us from afar. We wish you the best in your job search. We hope to see you at the next Job Club meeting. And do let us know success stories. Let us know when you land that next position. And we want to encourage you just to get out there and network as much as possible over the holiday season. Contrary to what people may think, the end of the year is actually a good time to job search. A lot of companies are trying to get those end of year hires. So don't give up on your job search just because it's the holiday season. Get out there and follow up on loose leads and continue to network in job search. Have a great day and thanks for joining us.